Before we go into the success of Curb Your Enthusiasm, we must go back to the moment in Larry David's life when he had just finished Seinfeld. We recommend you watch our previous video to get this context in depth. Besides being more financially comfortable than ever, Larry still felt the need to express in a creative way. But all he had tried after Seinfeld was directing a movie called Sour Grapes in 1998, that was doomed from the start because of the low resources he was given. The film had little to no repercussion, and was harshly treated by critics like Tim Goodman and Roger Ebert. Ebert went on to say something that would wound Larry deeply. Sour Grapes is a comedy about things that aren't funny. I can't easily remember a film I enjoyed less. Larry would get revenge from Ebert in his particular way, by parodying him through the character of food critic Andy Portico in season 3 of Curb Your Enthusiasm. He even went on to have the character imitate his thumbs down or thumbs up system of review. After the struggles and failure of Sour Grapes, and observing the general dislike of the public towards Seinfeld's final episode, Larry decided he would do best in returning to his origins, that is to say, to stand-up comedy. But in this area, Larry realized that as he was not in the visual foreground of Seinfeld, he kept being unknown to the mainstream audiences. It was then that Jeff Garlin proposed to him that he should do a comedy special for HBO. Jeff had experience directing this kind of clout-gaining projects, as he had done them before with comedians Dennis Leary and Jon Stewart. Larry, as usual, rejected Jeff's idea of a typical comedy special. Instead, he proposed doing a fake documentary about himself, built around him precisely trying to make a comedy special for HBO, with Jeff Garlin acting the role of his manager. Instead of Jeff, the director would be none other than... Taking this idea forward, the special aired on the 15th of October of 1999, 17 months after the last episode of Seinfeld. The choice of title, Curb Your Enthusiasm, was pushed forward by Larry against the producer's worries that the name would be too long to be remembered, suggesting instead Regrets Only, Half Empty, or Best Foot Backwards. Larry explained his obstinance this way. I mean, who likes enthusiasm? It's sickening, isn't it? To see enthusiastic people when you're miserable. Nobody wants that. The special was structured around three kinds of scene: fake documentary scenes, stand-up segments typical to comedy specials that Larry himself would record in his work in LA clubs, and an interview format proposed by Robert B. Whitey, where acquaintances of Larry like Jerry Seinfeld, Jason Alexander, Richard Lewis, and Larry Charles would go on to tell some anecdotes about him. The fake documentary scenes were the most improvised, as the actors only had a single-page brief where the events of the scene and the emotions that it aimed to cause were stated, instead of an actual script. Larry had a great justification for this. There's no way that you can get that sort of documentary feel, that cinema verite thing, unless you're improvising. And I've always liked improvising. When I've done it in the past, I felt I had a knack for it. The special was an absolute success, so the producers decided they should keep capitalizing on it. They proposed Larry to extend the concept to a full series, and in the 15th of October of the year 2000, the first actual episode of the Curb Your Enthusiasm series was aired. However, we have to understand that Larry David wanted to do his own comedy series since way back. When directing Seinfeld, Larry was frustrated by his confrontations with the producers, who wanted a more conventional sitcom and blocked some of his proposals, like having a single camera follow the protagonists around instead of using 3 static set cameras. Curb Your Enthusiasm was Larry's opportunity to work in full freedom from the very beginning. The Curb Your Enthusiasm series was written using experience obtained in Seinfeld's scriptwriting process. The series would begin with two key plotlines that generate other subplots as they develop. Since no subplot is ever truly closed shut, every episode the complexity of the series would grow, and with it a very comedic sensation of chaos. Plotlines would constantly intertwine and then would have to be ended in groups, which produced very comedic and satisfactory endings, built as punchlines of extremely compound jokes. As was done in Seinfeld, the main drive of the story would take a backseat position, but nevertheless develop. The result was that the series could not only be read in episodes, but as a whole, striking the viewer as a very sound meta-commentary on the human complexities of the creative process. Larry's humor has this particular capacity of resonating with reality, as his talking trait is precisely the small, mundane problems everyone has and faces every day. As he himself would put it, all this education and conversation and parental guidance that you've had in your life does not prepare you for a huge number of things that come up. I think that what goes on in people's lives is that most of their mind, most of their day, is occupied with tiny struggles. That's what people's lives are about. Fundamentally, that's what both of Larry's series are about. It's, when taken at face value, a very sociological inquiry. The goal is to question the arbitrary unspoken rules of society we accept with indifference, without questioning, and where exactly lie their limits when put against the laws of morality and coexistence. Larry David grotesquely deforms himself to build the character of a kind of anti-heroic jester, always ready to boldly unmask the inconsistencies we build our supposedly good etiquette and proper customs on. It is reinforced by the circus music that accompanies him throughout Curb Your Enthusiasm, the soundtrack appropriate for his jest as the clown of the charade that is backstage of the show business world. Larry Charles went on to compare writing Seinfeld to writing the Talmud, a dark Talmud. You have a lot of brilliant minds examining a thought or ethical question from every possible angle. Taking the joke to its limit, Larry David also manages to parody himself, something that the series exploits to the highest degree in the typical fashion of Jewish humor. According to author Sarah Blanchard Cohen, in Jewish Write Essays on Jewish Humor, self-mockery was the most distinguishing feature of Jewish humor, and self-mockery, rather than humiliating, is liberating. In conclusion, it is safe to say that Larry has achieved the making of our time's best comedy of customs. Through a character that is willing to test the fault lines of morality, going beyond good and evil, he exposes just how much our egotistical, hypocritical society fails to function, but always from a morally ambiguous position that lets the spectator room to make up his or her own conclusions. That is all for today's video. We hope you have liked this. If so, we would recommend you leave a comment, press the like button, subscribe and hit the bell so that you don't miss when we do more videos. If we see these kinds of videos getting support, we will continue with the topic. Thank you very much. I am David, and this has been a Futile Conquest.